My fiancée said, "You're replaceable. Never forget that." When I questioned her loyalty, I said, "I understood." Then I replaced myself in a way that destroyed her ego. Her jaw dropped when she saw the changed version of me. I, 29M, never thought a single sentence could shatter everything I believed about love, loyalty, and self-worth. But when those words left her lips, something fundamental changed inside me forever. The conversation happened on a Tuesday evening in our shared apartment. I had been questioning some inconsistencies in her stories about where she spent her evenings. Nothing accusatory, just gentle curiosity born from genuine care. She had been distant lately, her phone constantly buzzing with messages she'd quickly dismiss, her explanations about late work meetings becoming increasingly vague. When I brought up my concerns, she looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, cold, calculating, almost predatory. She told me I was being paranoid and insecure, that successful women like her had demanding social and professional lives that men like me simply couldn't understand. Then came the words that would echo in my mind for months. She said I was replaceable and should never forget that. The casual cruelty in her voice, the way she delivered it like stating a simple fact about the weather, left me speechless. I managed to tell her I understood, but inside, something died while something else was being born. That night, lying in bed beside her sleeping form, I stared at the ceiling and took inventory of my life. 29 years old, decent job in accounting, average build, average looks, average everything. She was right, wasn't she? I was completely replaceable. Any man could fill my role in her life without her missing a beat. But as the hours ticked by, a different thought began to crystallize. If I was truly replaceable, then so was she. And if I was going to be replaced anyway, why not become irreplaceable first? The next morning, I began my transformation with surgical precision. I had always been the accommodating partner, the one who adjusted his schedule around hers, who compromised his dreams to support her ambitions. That version of me was indeed replaceable. I started with my career. For 3 years, I had turned down promotion opportunities that would require travel or longer hours because she said she needed me available for her social events and networking functions. I called my boss that Wednesday and told him I was interested in the senior analyst position that would require relocating to our company's branch in another state. He seemed surprised but pleased, mentioning they had been hoping I would eventually express interest. Physical transformation came next. I had let myself go during our 2-year relationship, skipping gym sessions to spend evenings watching her favorite shows, eating takeout, because she claimed to be too tired to cook healthy meals. I hired a personal trainer and nutritionist, committing to early morning workouts before she woke up. The most crucial change was social. I had gradually lost touch with my college friends and family members because she found them boring or beneath her social circle. I started reaching out, rebuilding bridges I had foolishly burned. My best friend from college was shocked to hear from me, admitting he thought I had forgotten about my old life entirely. Throughout these first few weeks, she seemed oblivious to the changes. She was increasingly absent anyway, her mysterious evening activities becoming more frequent. When she bothered to notice my new routine, she made dismissive comments about midlife crises and desperate attempts to recapture youth. I let her believe whatever she wanted. Her dismissal actually motivated me further. The most unexpected development came through my renewed social connections. My college friend mentioned a startup company looking for someone with my financial background. The salary was nearly double what I was making, with equity options that could be life-changing if the company succeeded. More importantly, they valued innovation and independent thinking, qualities I had suppressed for years. When I told her about the job opportunity over dinner at our usual restaurant, she barely looked up from her phone. She said it sounded risky and that stable men don't chase fantasies. She reminded me that her career was taking off and she needed a supportive partner who would be there for her important events. I nodded and told her I understood her perspective, then accepted the job offer the next day. The physical changes were becoming noticeable by month 2. 20 pounds of fat replaced by muscle, a new wardrobe that actually fit properly, a confidence in my posture that hadn't existed in years. People at work started commenting, asking what I was doing differently. Even strangers seemed to notice me in ways they hadn't before. But the most profound change was internal. I was remembering who I used to be before I started molding myself into whatever she needed. I had opinions again, interests that weren't filtered through her approval, goals that existed independently of our relationship. She began to notice these changes with growing irritation. When I declined to attend one of her networking events because I had plans with my college friends, she accused me of being selfish and unsupportive. When I started cooking healthy meals instead of ordering her favorite takeout, she complained that I was trying to control what she ate. The breaking point came when she discovered I had been offered the new position. She had somehow found the paperwork in my study and confronted me with fury I had never witnessed before. She demanded to know how I could make such a major decision without consulting her, how I could be so disrespectful of their relationship. I calmly explained that I hadn't accepted yet, that I was still considering my options. This was technically true. I had accepted, but my start date wasn't for another month. I was curious to see how she would react to the possibility of losing her accommodating, replaceable partner. Her response revealed everything I needed to know about the true nature of our relationship. She didn't express concern about losing me or sadness about potential separation. Instead, she launched into a calculation of how my departure would inconvenience her life. Who would split the rent? Who would be her reliable +1 for social events? Who would handle the boring domestic tasks she had grown accustomed to delegating? Not once did she mention love, missing me, or fighting for our relationship. That's when I knew my transformation was complete, not just physically or professionally, but emotionally. I was no longer the man who would accept being treated as a convenient placeholder in someone else's life. Update 1. The revelation came 3 weeks later in the most unexpected way. I was at a coffee shop near my gym when I saw her through the window, sitting intimately close to a man I recognized from her company's website. Their body language told a story that explained all those mysterious evening meetings and dismissive attitudes toward our relationship. Instead of anger, I felt something like relief. The last piece of guilt about my secret job acceptance dissolved completely. She had already replaced me emotionally and physically. She just hadn't bothered to inform me yet. I didn't confront them. Instead, I went home and finished packing the belongings I had been gradually moving to a storage unit. By the time she returned that evening, I had removed every trace of my presence except for a simple note explaining that I would be relocating for work and our relationship was over. She called me 17 times that night. I didn't answer. The next morning, she was waiting outside my gym, having somehow figured out my new routine. Her appearance shocked me. She looked like she hadn't slept, her usually perfect makeup smudged, her professional composure completely shattered. She demanded to know how I could abandon her like this, how I could throw away 2 years together without even trying to work things out. She promised she could change, that she would be more supportive of my goals, that we could make it work long distance. I listened quietly, then reminded her of her own words from months earlier. I told her she was right. I had been replaceable, and now I was simply replacing myself with someone better. Someone who wouldn't accept being treated as disposable. Her expression cycled through disbelief, anger, and something that looked like panic. She tried different approaches, tears, accusations, promises, even attempts at seduction. Nothing worked because I was no longer the same person who had absorbed her casual cruelty months earlier. Finally, she asked what had changed, what had made me so cold and different. I explained that she had taught me a valuable lesson about replaceability, and I had simply been a good student. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. In trying to diminish my self-worth, she had inadvertently motivated me to become genuinely irreplaceable. Update 2. My new job started on a Monday morning in October. The company culture was everything I had hoped for: collaborative, innovative, focused on results rather than politics. My colleagues appreciated my analytical skills and financial expertise, treating me as a valuable team member rather than a convenient accessory. The city itself energized me in ways I hadn't expected. I found an apartment in a vibrant neighborhood filled with people pursuing their passions: artists, entrepreneurs, graduate students. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere. She continued calling and texting for the first month, her messages evolving from angry to pleading to desperate. She shared news about her promotion, as if professional success would somehow lure me back. She sent photos of herself at events, looking glamorous and successful, perhaps hoping to remind me of what I was losing. What she didn't understand was that the man who would have been impressed by those things no longer existed. The most revealing message came 6 weeks after I left. She had apparently discovered my social media accounts, which now showed a completely different life. Photos from hiking trips with new friends, professional events where I was being recognized for my contributions, social gatherings where I looked genuinely happy and confident. She sent a long message explaining how she had never fully appreciated what I brought to the relationship, how she had taken my stability and support for granted, how she realized now that I wasn't as replaceable as she had thought. She wanted a visit, to see if we could rebuild what we had. I read her message several times, trying to find any trace of the feelings I once had for her. There was nothing, not anger, not longing, not even pity. She had become a stranger to me, someone from a previous life that I had outgrown completely. My response was brief. I thanked her for the lessons she had taught me about self-worth and wished her well in finding someone who would accept being treated as replaceable. Then I blocked her number and all her social media accounts. Update 3. 6 months into my new life, I received an unexpected visitor. My former colleague from the old job had been promoted and was in town for a business conference. Over dinner, he filled me in on the office gossip, including updates about my ex-fiancée's situation. Apparently, her mysterious evening companion had been married the entire time. When his wife discovered their affair, she not only confronted my ex publicly at a company event, but also reported the relationship to their HR department. Both my ex and her lover faced disciplinary action, with him ultimately being transferred to avoid further scandal. The public humiliation had damaged her carefully cultivated professional image. Several networking contacts had distanced themselves, and the promotion she had been expecting was given to someone else. She had been asking mutual acquaintances about my contact information, claiming she needed to apologize for past mistakes. My colleague seemed to expect some reaction, satisfaction, concern, or at least curiosity about her downfall. Instead, I felt completely detached from her drama. Her consequences were the natural result of her choices, just as my current success was the result of mine. That weekend, I attended a community fundraiser where I met someone who would become significant in my new life. She was a veterinarian who ran an animal rescue organization, passionate about her work, but with no interest in playing social games or manipulation tactics. Our conversation flowed naturally, built on mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's thoughts and experiences. When she asked about my past relationships, I found myself able to discuss my experience without bitterness or anger. I explained that I had learned valuable lessons about self-worth and compatibility, that I was grateful for the growth those difficult experiences had prompted. She nodded with understanding, sharing her own story of emerging from a relationship where she had been made to feel inadequate and needy. We both recognized the signs of having survived relationships that diminished rather than elevated us. Final update. 1 year after my transformation began, I received a wedding invitation that surprised me more than it probably should have. My ex-fiancée was marrying someone, not the married man from her affair, but someone entirely new. The invitation was forwarded through mutual friends, and I wasn't sure if she had intended for me to receive it or if it was simply part of a mass mailing. The man in the engagement photo looked familiar in an unsettling way. He had the same accommodating smile I used to wear, the same eager-to-please posture that had characterized my old self. In the photo, she stood slightly in front of him, her hand possessively on his arm, her expression radiating the same confident superiority she had once directed at me. I felt a moment of sympathy for him, wondering if he knew what he was signing up for. Then I realized that perhaps this was exactly what both of them needed. She required someone willing to be replaceable, and he apparently needed someone who would make all the decisions and set all the terms. I didn't attend the wedding, but I sent a simple congratulations card with no return address. Inside, I wrote a single line, wishing you both exactly what you deserve. By then, my own life had taken on a momentum that amazed me daily. The startup was thriving, my equity options were looking increasingly valuable, and I had been promoted to head of financial operations. The veterinarian and I had been dating for several months, building something based on mutual respect and genuine affection rather than convenience or desperation. Most importantly, I had learned the difference between being needed and being valued, between being settled for and being chosen. The man who had once accepted being told he was replaceable no longer existed, replaced by someone who understood his own worth too clearly to ever settle for less than he deserved. Sometimes I wonder if my ex-fiancée ever understood the gift she gave me with her casual cruelty. In trying to diminish me, she had actually set me free to become the person I was meant to be. Her words about replaceability had been true, but not in the way she intended. I had indeed been replaceable by a better version of myself. The last I heard through mutual connections, she seemed happy in her new marriage, at least publicly. I genuinely hoped she was, that she had found someone whose needs aligned with her desire to be the dominant partner in the relationship. As for me, I had discovered something far more valuable than being irreplaceable to someone else. I had become irreplaceable to myself. And that transformation had made all the difference in every aspect of my life that followed. Looking back now, I can see that her harsh words that Tuesday evening weren't the end of anything. They were the beginning of everything that mattered.